This video is going to be a look at what I consider to be Lamar Jackson's most efficient, effective, and probably most explosive pass concept that he's utilized in his brief career with the Baltimore Ravens. And it shouldn't be any surprise that his primary target on most of these over routes is going to be Mark Andrews. We know that the run game has been a big asset, a big part of what the Ravens offense has been about under Greg Roman. And the over concept, which the diagram that you see in the background there, by the way, is not an exact diagram of most of these plays. It's actually backwards. Mark Andrews is usually used as an over route runner from the right-hand side of the offensive formation, a tight alignment. I'm going to show you, I think, 9 plays overall. 7 of them are from 2001. 2 of them, maybe 3, are from 2020. Over concepts can be used to attack teams that are trying to stop the run. Basically attack second-level players, especially inside linebackers, who are stepping up to try to stop the run. So once the run game is really working real well, the over concept is kind of a natural counter for the offense. And Lamar's been good at the over route since he showed up in Baltimore, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that it was a real big staple of Louisville's offense during his time in college. But I know that he's been able to throw it well, particularly to Mark Andrews. And the Ravens use Andrews as part of the read, part of the primary read, and sometimes they use him as a supplementary part of it. This first play I'm going to show you is from 2020, and you're going to see Mark Andrews is down here in the slot. It's 11 personnel. The guy who catches the touchdown is going to be Willie Snead. So let's check out the route combinations that we get. That's what you're going to get from Andrews, this little in-breaking route here. A backside, topside, the X Miles Boykin is just going to run an outside release go. And that's available to Lamar if he wants to go up top and take the one-on-one. We know, of course, he didn't take a ton of one-on-ones up to Miles Boykin. The route that we're going to talk about is Snead's over route, originating from just outside of Mark Andrews. Now, I'll show you a play later on in this video where Andrews lines up in the exact same place, and him and Rashad Bateman in 2021 do like a switch route combination. It'll be the last play that I'll show you. The final part of this read would be Marquise Brown as like this late in-breaking route if no one is open. This is one of the more beautiful throws that I think Lamar has thrown in his time in Baltimore. You got this safety to the backside of the formation. He stepped down, and he actually communicates something to the field side safety, number 23, who still chooses to run with Mark Andrews, and they leave number 20 one-on-one with Willie Snead, and it's an easy touchdown. You'll see the communication I'm talking about. It'll be from this guy right here during the play. Andrews is lined up in the slot. Snead is outside of him. He's spot shadowed. That's the route that Andrews is going to run. He's going to kind of sit it down into the boundary a little bit. 23 is communicating right now. 33 is communicating right now. And I think he's telling 23 to go ahead and go with Snead. But maybe they were going to go ahead and they were going to quote double or bracket Andrews because he was the biggest threat. It's possible. But in any case, you can see the first over route, this one for a touchdown that I'm showing you, Mark Andrews is not the targeted receiver, but a great throw, great catch by Snead. Really underrated football player, adaptable and versatile. All right, another one from 2020. This one early in the game against the Browns in the other end zone. Andrews is going to be on the left, and then him and Ricard are going to go and move a little bit. We're essentially in what's called twin wing, whereby you have twin receivers. But we know 97% of the time when Ricard is in this location, when he's detached from the tackle, he's going to go in motion. Normally, he's going to go in motion to help with the pass pro. So you get what I call over-under combination. Nick Boyle, the inside tight end here, is going to run the under route in front of the linebacker level. And then Andrews, the outside tight end, that's the wing side, by the way, in twin wing. He's going to run the over concept. And this is a great throw. Lamar almost misses him. You can see that it really works out like mesh, to be honest with you, where Boykin and Boyle are running the mesh. So I'm calling it an over route because that's what Andrews ran, but you really do have somewhat of a mesh look here between those two, where if they were playing man, they could use each other to try to pick or screen, one of their defenders. Great catch by Andrews, back of the end zone. Everybody's seen him make these catches against AFC North teams a ton. All right, Ricard in motion. He actually doesn't pass pro. He runs out into the flats. We get Ingram is cutting, I think, Myles Garrett here. There's the mesh aspect of this. And you can see that Lamar's got time to throw the football, even though Garrett was unblocked off the snap. We almost miss him there with all that space. It looked like Lamar maybe saw him late or later and tried to get this thing out of there real quick. Almost missed him. Great catch by Andrews. Okay, let's move to 2021. And they used the over concept repeatedly against some of these cover 3 teams that they faced. And if you don't remember or you weren't aware of it at the time, Raiders played a lot of cover 3. That was the MO of their defensive coordinator. Now, they're going to have a new defensive coordinator apparently in 2022. But we're in trips right. You can see for 2021, I've got data. So we're in trips right, which means 3 receivers to the right. I call this 20 personnel. I think that's inaccurate right there. I think this should be 21. Got 1 tailback, fullback, Ricard. So there's your 2. And then here's your tight end backside in the trip set. It's going to be an over route to Marquise Brown. You're going to get motion by Ricard. And what they're doing, the way they're attacking this cover 3. Now, usually cover 3 teams or any team, when you give them trips to one side, oftentimes if they're in a 1 high safety look like this, they're gonna go ahead and make a lock call, a Louis call, a Maryland call, whatever the call is, to tell this guy, you're man. You're man right here on number 1, backside. And what that does is it simplifies everyone else's job. You've just got to focus on the 3 receivers over here to the front side, to the strong side of the formation. In this case, we motion one of them away. We isolate this corner on Andrews. So Andrews runs a shorter route, and this guy's attention is on Andrews. So the over concept by Brown hits over the top of the linebacker level, but also hits over the top of the backside corners coverage. And we used this multiple times against the Raiders in week 1. We used it a lot against the Broncos in week 4. To a little bit of a lesser extent, we used it against the Colts in week 5. There's Brown. We'll let you see it one more time. Andrews running that short route, occupying the corner. You see Brown is over the top of the linebacker level. He's underneath of the free safety. So he's in that area between the second level defenders and the free safety. And Lamar's job is to fit it in there in a way that protects his receiver. And you can see he's able to throw it over the top to the corner. So there's really a high level of protection in terms of his receiver not taking a hit. Ricard in motion, helping out on the edge. You can see we've got everyone condensed really tight in here as far as the D-line. All 3 inside linebackers. Eyes in the backfield. Haven't identified yet that they should turn and get back in their drops. Marquise Brown, wide open. Great concept that complements our run game specifically. All right, the other way to do it is the opposite of what I just showed you. So I just showed you trips to one side and the number 2 receiver running the over route. And then the guy back here to the boundary, which will be Andrews, running a short route to occupy the corner. I just drew that up backwards from the previous play if you didn't catch that. Ravens are going to do this the opposite way now. So basically they're going to run a clear out. They're going to run a clear out route here by the number 1. And also by the number 2. I call that a lube route. Some people call it a climb route. Whatever you want to call it. It's a slot receiver running up the middle of the field, not necessarily a post. And then from the far side, Andrews is running an over route. And him and Duvernay, the slot, they kind of are close to each other. And guys, that's a normal thing that happens. There are plenty of pass concepts where receivers are supposed to be next to each other at a certain period of time. So if you're one of those people that hyperventilates over screenshots on Twitter or other social media about players being closer to each other, take some time, watch some channels, not just mine, and look at pass concepts. There are plenty of pass concepts, mesh and others, where receivers are going to be next to each other at a certain point in time. Lamar really trusts Mark Andrews and lets this develop. He's got a lot of time back here. I think it's a 4-man rush. A lot of time back here to throw the football. Puts it up high to let the receiver go get it. I mean, you can see the trajectory of the football. It's quite high, even though the video quality isn't maybe perfect. Andrews is able to catch it in the breadbasket. So Ricard in motion, that's one of the elements of this. Opposite the over route. Let me rewind this back one more time. One of the things that kind of is I don't want to say a giveaway, but one of the elements of this oftentimes is that Ricard is in motion opposite of where the over route is going. Why is that? Because Ricard in motion this way could absolutely be a run play to this side. So what they want to do is they want to get second-level players, linebackers, flowing in that direction. So then the over route hits behind them in the opposite direction. That's why Ricard is generally moving to the opposite side of the over route. You can see that's as great a throw as Lamar makes outside the numbers. All the discussion about where he's capable of throwing the football, if you ask me, is nullified by the over concept. And what I mean by that is sometimes the over concept hits from the bottom of the numbers to the sideline. The previous play that I showed you with Marquise Brown hit somewhere around the top of the numbers. Sometimes it'll hit more in the middle of the field. It's kind of like wherever the coverage is, it's just where the ball's got to be thrown. There's no reason that anyone should be able to get away with saying Lamar Jackson can't throw the football here. Or I even saw a graphic, some type of stat 2 or 3 days ago, showing Lamar Jackson with a 0 passer rating in the middle of the field in 2021. And of course, he didn't have a great season in 2021 for a lot of reasons. But if you take the best players, 4, or I guess 3 of the best 5 or 6 players off of anyone's offense, you're going to see an impact, especially when one of those guys is your multi-million-dollar left tackle. All right, against the Colts, week 5, Andrews running this over route. And it's kind of neat here because the Colts are playing a drop cover 2. It doesn't look like cover 2 pre-snap, but it is here. You got a flat defender, you got a flat defender. You got a hook defender, you got a hook defender. And then this guy right here is your I call him the high hole player, meaning he's in the he's higher than these guys, and he should be carrying verticals if he's playing at linebacker depth initially. Now he's playing at safety depth initially. So we're talking about this guy here. He's going to drop, and then these guys are going to drop back. So you got almost like a 3 safety structure here. So he doesn't have to turn his back and run vertically, when I think it's Prochet or maybe it's Watkins tries to run past him because he's already there. So he can already sit in that window and take it away and then allow things to play to the safety. So this is definitely cover 2. I don't think that this is where you draw it up to throw it. You certainly don't draw it up to throw between, I guess you could say, those 3 defenders with this guy drop, high hole player as well. But Lamar does it. A beautiful throw. That defender knocked himself out, colliding with Andrews. It's not every play that you get a play action fake. There is none here on an over concept. If you've been paying attention up here to these labels at all, I actually have this labeled as over flood, and some people would not call it flood. So flood would be 1, 2, and then possibly one of these guys, a third level. I call it over flood, and not everyone does, and that's no problem. When the over route comes from this side of the field, Then you have a second route, which can originate from either the same side as the over or the near side. I'm calling this up here the near side because that's where the ball was thrown. That's where the ball was targeted. And then to the near side, you've got, to me, what is two clear out routes here and here. I call it over flood when you get 2 or 3 guys running a low and a high to the same side of the field, and either a clear out route or one of those guys running an even deeper one. To me, flood doesn't have to be 3 guys on the same side of the field, but there are some people who refuse to call it flood unless there's 3 outbreaking routes on that side of the field. I call it overflood to designate that one of the routes came from the other side of the field. And you can see Lamar stuck this in there between 3 defenders. Awesome throw, great catch, and then the ability to hold on to the football. You can see, I'm sure, even if you aren't a film connoisseur like some of us are, I'm sure you can tell at this point that the over concept is designed to hit off of play action, or at least off of the threat of the run game. Now, the previous play I showed you, there was no mesh between Lamar and the running back, so it's not always going to be so. Now, this one here I have over, so I don't recall, but being as I have over labeled there should not be a mesh between the quarterback and the running back, because then it should be play action over. All right, so you got Andrews on the right-hand side, lined up tight. And let's get something out of the way here, too. If Andrews was lined up out here, it's not an over concept. So there is some predictability with the Ravens offense. But it's kind of like got to be predictable for any offense. You're not going to run an over concept with a split end who's lined up really far out wide. It's going to take too damn long for him to get over here. You know what I mean? So one of the reasons why you guys should, and by the way, Ricard's over there on the right. He's going to pass pro on a lot of these. Sometimes he was in motion, like I pointed out in an earlier play. Sometimes he's already set up to the right. But in any case, one of the reasons why Andrews is lined up so tight to the right so often is because he's running these over routes so daggone much. It's not really a tell. It's just information for you guys. Now, he does this so much, and I'm sure they drill this often. He's looking like he's going to run the under, which would mean he's running in front of the linebacker level. That's the terminology that I'm familiar with. Other people may have, call it a drag, whatever. But what he's doing really is he's setting this linebacker up. He's making it look like he's running the under or the drag to pull this guy forward, to get him to come forward. And then as soon as he comes forward, what Andrews does, breaks it behind him. We almost get a touchdown out of it. Let's go back and look at the clear out routes on the front side. Should have something like this. I think that memory serves. So they're just clearing out. They're clearing everything out. They're trying to give us this space here. Why does it work? Because you've got a flat route down here. The smart curl flat players, are obvious. The bad ones are going to jump this. That's what your high school kids do. That's what your really bad players do. The smart ones are going to hang out in between because they understand this is the bait. This is the bait to try to pull me forward. I don't want to do that and give up more space. Now, he's hanging out. He's doing a nice job, I would say. There's just too much time. Look at the pocket that Lamar had. And so he can wait for this to develop and land it in here. What I said earlier about the over concept being something that, in my opinion, nullifies those opinions that Lamar can't throw to. He can only throw to certain areas of the field. This is all up to whatever Mark Andrews reads, number one. Because sometimes he'll sit this thing down in the middle of the field and Lamar will hit it. And I don't believe that's always a play. I think it's a read sometimes. And then also, sometimes Lamar will hit this thing here. Because you'll get a curl flat player maybe widen up. And the window is between these two players. So some of those graphics that you'll see, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of them, I'll be honest with you. I know I say that about a lot of things, though. So there's Ricard blocking with Macari on the edge. I think that's Bosa. We actually have Villanueva doing a pretty good job here, I guess. Got a great pocket for Lamar to throw to. You'll see Andrews. It looks like he's crossing in front of this guy's face. He's not going to. He's going to jet behind him, and that guy's beat badly. Not sure where we are in our play progression. There's not too many of them left. have to digress for a moment. I want to make sure that I thank my patrons. I don't do a good job of that at all. I was reminded by two of them recently, my recent patrons from May. I just wanted to thank Marcus, Malik, Howard, Slim, Rob, Boatwrights, I'm not sure how to say that, Nazarene, Nas, I guess, Jeremy, Brent, and Emmanuel. Appreciate you guys and gals support on Patreon, regardless of which tier was. And then the OG or original patrons from back in October. These are all got people that joined in October. I really appreciate you guys, or during the football season, I should say. And I'm very thankful. And I wanted to call attention to new patrons and the people who have been supporting for a while, because it means a lot. So I want to say thank you. 2 plays later, I believe, after that throw I just showed you and spent time talking about, significant time, you're going to get Andrews, and he's going to, again, this is the same concept as I showed you against the Raiders, I believe. Basically, they're occupying the corner to the near side. And when I say near side, it's where, Andrews is running the over concept. They're occupying that corner. So Brown's going to run like this little China out, occupying that corner. And then if Lamar had, more time and needed to, he could wait and then throw this thing by the, I guess the L in Baltimore, right? Ends up catching, I guess if he had more time and he needed to, and Marquise Brown's route had more time, because if Lamar has more time, then Marquise Brown's route, if he keeps running it, should progress further to the sideline. So the idea of over is not only are you throwing it over the linebackers, the inside linebackers, the second level guys, but in some cases, because of the design, you're throwing it over the top of a corner too. And that's the way the Ravens attacked the Raiders cover 3 in week 1 last year. Now Lamar didn't wait for it to develop because he had Derwin James beat so badly. I think James thought he had help to his right, to our left on the screen. So, and he did not. So he ends up getting beat pretty bad. You can see the nice little cup there, protection that Lamar's got. We got to use 7 guys to do it, however. So there are some situations where people would complain, and I guess I'm one of them too. You don't always want to be using 7-man protection scheme, but in this case it works great. Andrews wide open, touchdown. Beautiful play. 2 from the Cincinnati game in week 7, and then I think we'll be done. This video's gone a little longer than I actually wanted it to be. Let me know if you guys enjoy this format. Rather than the heavily edited, I'm doing this, straight through one shot as far as the audio. The more edited videos, like I just put out for the Ravens RPO concepts, which I'll try to put above and to your right now. Those take a lot longer. This one can be produced quicker so I can get out more content. But if this one doesn't meet the quality standard that people would like to see, then please let me know. So this is a 22 personnel grouping. 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. And you can see what it has elicited, or what the Bengals have answered with, is a 9-man front. They rolled up Jesse Bates. He's the guy in the top left corner of that rectangle. And then their corner, which I think is, I can never say this guy's name, is a great player. Woozy, number 22, I think. Really, really good player. So they're in basically a 4-3 look, and they rolled up to safety to one side and the corner to the bottom side, the boundary side of the formation. Usually Andrews is on the right, like I explained earlier. This case, Andrews is down to the bottom side. He's got the arrow pointing at him. And I think that's Oliver up there, the spot shadow. You do get a play action between Lamar and the back. That's why it's labeled play action there. Andrews gets really hung up with the D end because the Bengals do a nice job sometimes of getting hands on. What they've done, and I'll show you the end zone angle, they're in a 6 technique. They're head up on both tight ends. So their jobs are to get hands on the tight ends, not let them release. Look at what's happening to Andrews. He's getting really hung up. Now, I do not think he's the target of this play, however. I think it was Josh Oliver all the way. The Ravens are trying to use their tendency of throwing to Andrews, and they've even set Ricard on the opposite side. Remember I said Ricard will normally pass pro on the opposite side of the over route? This is one of those where that goes against that tendency. Ricard's on our right. By the way, Oliver gets an outside release. It's untouched. And Wilson, who's a really good linebacker in coverage, regardless of what other people say, doesn't touch him. So no one touches Oliver. You can see Ricard has crossed Lamar's face. He's ready to block over here. Freeman is running out into the flats. So we've got 6-man protection scheme after Andrews finally gets clear, and Oliver is wide open. They're lucky that this didn't go for 6 with some other design. My bad, I had 2 more plays. So usually Andrews runs the over. In this case, he's not going to. He's going to run, basically going to run a check under. He's going to check up in the middle of the field. And then Duvernay is going to run the over. This is a beautifully thrown ball. This is kind of different coverage than what I showed you early against the Colts. Remember I said the Colts were playing a drop cover 2, and Lamar dropped that pass in there to Andrews in a spot where you wouldn't normally think it'd be completed. To me, this looks like cover 3 with man on the backside. Very similar up here in that you've got a short route to the near side where the over is going. You got a short route which is occupying this corner. The very similar way that they attack the Raiders. The over route is from the other side of the field, and it's going to the near side where you've got a short route occupying that corner. Great throw by Lamar. I think at first, he glances over here to this side of the field. I'm not sure if he's looking at the corner or if he's looking at the safety to that side, but in any case, he fits it between the linebacker and the safety, and then underneath of this free safety. A beautiful play. End zone angle hopefully gets you some real appreciation of it. Duvernay running the over route. It's normally run by Andrews. Lamar's looking over here at something. It definitely looks like he's looking at this safety who's rolled up into the box. Doesn't look like his face mask is looking over at the corner to the boundary. But Lamar's also very good at, and option quarterbacks do this, whether it's option out of the pistol or option under center. They're taught to look out of the side, not the absolute side of their face mask, but they're taught to not turn their entire face mask and give away where they're looking. Maybe he does that sometimes on pass plays as well. But in any case, there's Andrews checking up in the middle, holding this linebacker, giving Lamar this window between the linebacker and the safety, and then underneath of the free safety. Lamar is very comfortable with the over concepts. This will be the last play, I believe. Very comfortable with the over concepts. It fits with the rest of our offense. I do have some other concepts to show that I hope people enjoy. Check out the RPO video. Like I said, I'm going to show some mesh stuff, and I'll be honest with you, Lamar is not as good throwing mesh routes, mesh concepts. It should be familiar by now. You have 3 receivers to the top side. Bateman is going to run the over. So what do you think we're doing here? We're pass proing initially and then run it out into the flats. Why? To occupy this corner. Hopefully I've beat that horse pretty dead. It's a great throw. I think, I can't say his Twitter tag. I think MC on Twitter did a nice job of showing this in a quick video. But you can see that corner's occupied with Ricard. Ricard initially blocked as if it was a run play down here to the bottom side. Talking about right here. Very similar to a play he did against the Raiders. He's engaged the D end. You got the run action coming at you. You got a pulling guard. So we're getting this linebacker moving, trying to hold this corner, basically create a wall here and not let this corner get any depth. Now we can throw it. And this linebacker, one of these linebackers almost makes a great play. I think it's Pratt. Our linebackers are so underrated, man. Maybe it's not Pratt. All right, so Andrews is the inside guy right here. Bateman is off screen to our right. Ricard is going to block initially. The back, which is Le'Veon Bell, is crossing face. There's Ricard, and that's going to hold this corner. You can see that corner's not backpedaling at all. He's got Ricard, boom. All the space now. Give this linebacker credit. 59, 57. Almost makes a great play. This is a concept we'll see a lot of this year, especially if the run game's working. My issue is this. First of all, this is a great concept. Great play. Adjustment by the Ravens, running it with Bateman. He's perfectly suited for it. He's got speed. He's a lot faster than people give him credit for. My issue with the way we use the over concepts is how predictable we can be in terms of running it with Mark Andrews. I would like to see us continue to utilize the concept as often as we do. Assuming that the run game works, this concept will hit even bigger. There was probably a dozen plays I could have shown from 2020 and probably another 6 or 8 from 2021. Of course, Lamar's season was abbreviated for injuries. I would like to see us be a little more versatile in terms of who runs the over route, number one. I do have some other plays from around the NFL that I'm not going to put in this video because this video went on way longer than I thought it would at 30 minutes. But I'd like to show some advancements, some enhancements. If you watch the RPO video near the end, I made a point that the Chiefs take the RPO and they build play sequences off of the RPO. And I think they do, and that's something the Ravens have not reached. The Ravens have not reached that level. Now, in terms of the over route, the Ravens have been running the over route for a while. They've been relying on that concept. Not that like, oh, this is one of the few things Lamar can do. No, it's because it perfectly complements the run game. One of the things I'd like to see us do is utilize the over concept and build play sequences off of that route concept. I think it's possible. I don't have to draw it up in my Playmaker software because I can show you the film. I can show you the film of at least 2 other teams, the Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans, running the over concept, but running some variations off of it, enhancing the scheme a little bit in a way that makes it almost unstoppable on those particular plays. Let me know what you think. Is this really Lamar Jackson's favorite pass play? I don't know. I just know that it's one that the Ravens are very efficient with. And to me, it kind of tags nicely with the run game. To me, it's an indicator of whether or not the run game is working or not. Stuck around this long, I'm going to give you some information that one of my patrons, Walter, really smart guy, he was able to find from in our database. So we took 5 pass concepts and we broke them down, and I will put a post in this on my YouTube page. We took 5 pass concepts, and I guess we'll say 4, and we found the yards per play on these concepts. So RPO, which is the previous video that did, 6.7 yards per play, pretty good. 383 pass plays, 6.1 yards per play, because of course it includes incompletions. Mesh concepts, 8.2 yards per play. That one kind of surprised me, but it was a small sample size, only 5 plays. Flood concepts, 3.2 yards per play, but again, small sample size, only 10 plays. And then this one that I just went over. Over routes, 30 plays in 2020 and 2021. That's what's in our database. 30 plays, 11.4 yards per play. That's another reason why I said it's probably Lamar's favorite play, because it's the one that's been most effective. Let me know what you guys think of the video if you stuck around this long. Appreciate you guys' time.